Honeysuckle is a very popular plant for ornamental landscaping. It grows in many of our gardens. In this video, I'm going to show you how I have preserved honeysuckle flowers for use in teas. They can also be used in jellies. Honeysuckle is rich in vitamins A, B, and C. But when you dehydrate the flowers, the heat from the dehydration will degrade the vitamins. So if you're using them for the vitamins, you'll need to use fresh flowers. Not all honeysuckle flowers are edible. So check with someone with a lot of plant knowledge or with an app, or to make sure that your variety is edible before you go to the bother of picking and preserving them. On the internet, doing research, I found that a study had suggested that honeysuckle repels mosquitoes, and I'm all for that. Haven't noticed that it repels them in my yard, but I haven't stood out in the honeysuckle bush at the time when the mosquitoes are about. So do your own research and let me know in the comments if you found it does or doesn't. The white flowers are not ready to be picked. You should look for yellow petals, and the whole bush will be in flower at the same time. So if you have white flowers, white petals, then wait until the yellow ones are ready for picking. Fresh flowers that I have picked were very tasty when they were fresh. They taste nectar, and the smell of the bush was incredible, very heady, fruity kind of smell. The taste was very similar to the smell, to my taste anyway. I picked the flowers in mid-morning after the dew had been burnt off by the sun and the flowers were all open. Honeysuckle grows in disturbed ground, grows on the edge of my woods, and it likes the full sun. To harvest the flowers, nip the blossoms off. I use my fingernails, and make sure that you don't pull the stamens through the back of the petals and leave them on the bush, because the stamens and that part of the flower will be where the nectar is and will make the honeysuckle tea sweeter. Once you've brought in your harvest of flowers, spread it out onto a light-colored surface and make sure that any creepy crawlies have gone before you start preparing to dehydrate the blossoms. Watch out for bees when you're picking. To dehydrate the flowers, pick the green parts off the back of the blossom so that you don't, as much of the green as you can do, and spread the blossoms out onto your dehydrated trays. I put a sheet of parchment paper in the bottom tray so that when the flowers dry and become quite small, they don't fall through the little vents and get lost in the machine. So fill as many trays as you can, and with as little overlap of the blossoms as you can get. It might be worth doing in more than one go rather than having them all bunched up and touching each other. They'll dry quicker. I put mine in to dry for 3 hours and then checked them, and I wasn't sure that they were dry, so I restacked the trays with the top one moving down and dried again for an hour at the lowest setting, and then they were crispy. Once they've finished drying and you're sure that there's no moisture left in the flowers, leave them to cool and then check again. And if you're still sure, then they're ready to be stored. I store mine in a canning jar with a rubber sealed lid, and then I use a vacuum sealer for storing them for a long period of time. If you're going to use them immediately for tea, then skip the vacuum sealing, and you've preserved your flowers. The dried flowers can be used in tea 1 to 3 teaspoons in 8 ounces of water, 1 cup. I let them steep for 3 minutes, and the tea was a delicate flavor. If you want something stronger, then you'd have to steep it for longer, but it also wouldn't be a hot tea. It's a refreshing tea, so an iced tea probably would be good too. I couldn't find any information on the internet about the safety of honeysuckle flowers for pregnant or breastfeeding women, so you'll have to do your own research on that or find something else to make a nice tea out of. If you're using fresh flowers to make a tea, you'll have to steep the tea for longer, 4 to 5 minutes, before you'll get the flavor in the tea, and you should use 3 times as much. The flowers that I had reduced by to a third of the amount that I had picked. That concludes my video on dehydrating honeysuckle flowers. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for watching to the end. Much appreciated. And I look forward to hearing any comments you might have on the video or on dehydrating honeysuckle.